This is the Vivo X100 Pro, a smartphone that's been co-engineered with Zeiss. Now this is very important because, Alexa, how long has Carl Zeiss been making lenses for?
From squarespace.com. Pour the mixture into an ice cream maker and process for 30 minutes.
Alexa, how long has Carl Zeiss been making lenses for?
For 175 years, Carl Zeiss has been making precision optical products.
I knew that, I was just testing. So Carl Zeiss have been making precision optics for over 175 years, and they've co-engineered the camera tech on this smartphone, the optics, the software, to make sure that the photography you get from this device is some of the best you can get right now. And the tagline for the Vivo X100 Pro is photography redefined. So of course, I'm going to be sharing with you guys some photo and video samples, but with a little bit of a twist. And if you stick around, you'll see what I mean. So before I unbox this, let's get some of the basic information out of the way. The color options available here are Star Trail Blue, Asteroid Black, which is the one I have here, and there's also a Sunset Orange, which comes in a vegan leather finish. Storage options here in Europe are 16GB RAM, that's LPDDR5X RAM, that's the fastest you can get right now, and 512GB of ROM, that's UFS 4.0. There are different variations on this in different parts of the world, but that's what we have as standard here in Europe, and it's more than enough for most people. And Vivo are the official sponsor of the UEFA Euro 2024 in Germany. And as much as I'd like to say England will bring it home, that's probably not gonna happen. But if you get one of these phones, there's a very good chance it has some good photos to bring home. Now, a couple of the key features you should know about straight away, even before I get this out of the box, is the primary camera is a 50 megapixel Sony sensor with T-Star coatings on the optics. The telephoto uses a floating lens, and this phone has a dedicated processor for image signal processing. It's called the Vivo V3 chip. Anyway, let's get this out of the box. And for the sake of keeping this nice and quick, let me show you a magic trick. This is everything that you get in the box with the Vivo X100 Pro. We have a 120 watt charging brick. What's interesting about this charging brick is the phone actually charges at 100 watts. So this is more than enough. But the great thing about it is it's capable of charging a laptop as well if you want to use it that way. So it can be a multi-purpose charger that might actually save you buying another charger, which could mean Vivo are helping to save the environment by shipping this in the box. USB-C to C charging cable, a nice textured silicone case, the usual literature, pluck 'em and file 'em. And then we got a SIM ejector tool as well. And of course we have the phone itself with a pre-installed screen protector. Okay, now let's talk about the design. So the back of the device is actually made of glass, and it's got this frosted matte finish. The great thing about this finish is it's super soft to the touch, but also it's very resistant to fingerprints. And they say that this is designed to remind you of a starry night sky, probably due to the way it kind of glitters when the light hits it. It does have stereo speakers. We have a speaker grill at the bottom, and the top speaker is located at the top edge of the screen. It also has a built-in IR blaster, which is something we don't see that often anymore. And it uses quad low frequency antennas, which means no matter which way you hold this phone, you're never gonna block the signal to the device. Now, this is something that happens quite a lot on some other well-known devices, but it won't happen here. And while we're talking about connectivity, it does support 5G, Wi-Fi 7, and Bluetooth 5.4. And it does have a dual SIM tray, and you'll notice it does have a rubber gasket around that SIM tray, which will help with its water resistancy, which is rated at IP68 water and dust resistant, which means this can be submerged for 30 minutes in 1.5 meters of water without drowning. The USB-C port at the base, if you're wondering, is a USB 3.2 Gen 1. The frame is aluminium and the overall weight is 225 grams. Now let's talk about the display. It's a 6.78 inch LTPO display, 120 Hz, 3000 nits of peak brightness. And just for context, Alexa, how bright is the iPhone?
The maximum brightness of the iPhone 14 Pro Max is 1600 nits, which is 400 nits brighter than its predecessors. I
thought it was 2000. I knew that, although I did think it was 2000, but you get the idea. This is significantly brighter than the iPhone. It is a curved glass display. Now, some people love this, some people don't like it that much, but one thing's for certain, it does make the phone feel thinner when you're holding it. The pixel density is 452 pixels per inch and the screen to body ratio is just under 90%. And the screen brightness is so bright that I've had to turn it down to almost the minimum to shoot this video. And it does use an under display fingerprint sensor, which is positioned quite low down here at the bottom of the screen. So it's got an impressive display. It's bright, it's powerful, it's power efficient thanks to that LTPO technology that allows it to slow all the way down to 1 Hertz and then all the way up to 120 Hertz when needed. And if you guys are liking this wallpaper that I got here, let me know in the comments and I'll send you over a secret link to it. Now let's talk about speed and power. This phone has a massive 5,400 milliamp hour battery in there. It's a dual cell battery, but it occupies around about the same size as a regular 5,000 milliamp hour battery, and that's because of this improved battery technology that it's using. And with the 100 watt charger that it comes with, you can get this phone to 50% battery in just 14 minutes. And in certain parts of the world where you can get your hands on the Vivo wireless charger for this, it can support wireless charging at 50 watts, which is incredible for wireless charging. Now let's talk about the processing power. This phone uses MediaTek's flagship, the Dimensity 9300, and I wasn't sure how powerful this chip was, so I did run some benchmarks to find out. On the left, I have the iQ12 rocking the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, the latest and greatest from Qualcomm, and then we have the 9300 here in the Vivo X100 Pro. Now, both of these phones are technically made by the same people, iQ being the sister company to Vivo. And the results here actually really surprised me. Check this out. Here are the CPU benchmark results, and you'll notice straight away the Snapdragon has a higher single core score, but on the multi-core, you'll notice the Dimensity is quite far ahead. Now, if we go into this section, you can see how it stacks up against other phones like the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, and you can see both of these devices are significantly ahead. And then when we go into the multi-core score, you can see how much further ahead the Vivo X100 Pro is in comparison. Now check out the GPU scores. You'll notice straight away that the Vivo X100 Pro outscores the iQ12 by quite a bit. And then when we go into the actual rankings here, once again, you'll see how far ahead of the competition the Vivo X100 Pro is. And also you'll notice the iQ12 itself is no slouch. And there is a Pro version of the iQ12 as well, so that would probably score even higher than this. Like I said before, I was not expecting this, and if this means nothing to you at all you need to know is this is one of the most powerful Android phones out there right now. And if you're wondering how much this has improved over last year's model, Vivo say the peak performance is up 40%, and the power efficiency is up 33%. And just in case you wanted to know, the Dimensity 9300 is built using a 4nm process. Something else that's pleasantly surprised me about this phone is the amount of bloatware that it doesn't have when you boot it up for the first time. Literally, the only thing I could find on here that you might consider bloatware is the actual vivo.com link, the recorder, and that's about it. There's not even any folders with recommended apps, so I think a lot of people will be happy about that. Now let's talk about the Vivo V3 processor, which is dedicated to improving photography. One of the key areas that's been improved this time around is the 4K portrait video mode that this phone has. So this is where you can shoot video where your subject is in focus, but then it blurs the background. One of the great things about this particular mode on this phone is you have the Zeiss optics options if you want to add a bit more style to that bokeh. And you can even add Zeiss's own cinematic background blur if you want. And there's also color LUTs that you can add and a few more effects to play around with on that 4K portrait video. Now let's talk about the camera module design. They call this the Sun Halo design. The non-pro version is the Moon Halo design. And the reason they call it that is because of the way the circular camera module kind of rests on top of this metallic surface here, and it kind of sticks out at the bottom a little bit here at the edge, and that's to represent the sun peeking around from behind the moon in an eclipse. There's one piece of glass over all of the cameras here and the sensor array It's a 2.5D glass. I'm told it's Gorilla Glass Victus, which is very resistant to scratching, and it's got an AR coating on top. The metal around the camera glass itself is an aerospace grade stainless steel, and you'll notice there's kind of a textured surface around the metal. This is called the watch style sunburst texture, which kind of catches the light and it looks really nice in my opinion. So although this uses a triple camera setup, it does look like there's a fourth camera module there, but that actually houses a laser focus sensor, a multi-spectral sensor, and a flicker sensor. The primary camera, as I mentioned in the intro, is that 1-inch 23mm f1.75 camera, and this primary camera actually has a glass element in it and 7 plastic elements. A lot of smartphones that you might consider to be very good quite often just use all plastic lenses, but using a glass element actually reduces a lot of chromatic aberration and distortion in your photos. And actually with this particular phone and that massive image sensor, they say edge to edge quality will be better in general. Some other smartphones that have big image sensors might have fantastic quality in the center, but not necessarily at the edges. The ultra wide is also 50 megapixels. It's a 15mm focal length equivalent f2.0. And then we have the 50 megapixel Zeiss APO floating telephoto 100mm f2.5 periscope zoom lens, and the selfie camera is a 32 megapixel sensor. Now going back to that Zeiss APO sensor on the telephoto, APO is an abbreviation of apochromat, and this is something that's often used on telescopes, and as you know, Zeiss have been making telescopes for a long time. And this configuration is said to improve color accuracy, reduce aberrations and ghosting in comparison to achromatic lenses. And a couple of other areas that have improved here on this phone is the stabilization and a new anti-shake system. Now, one of the reasons this is a big deal when it comes to photography is when you do a low light shot with a smartphone, it has to do a longer exposure. And if there's a lot of shake in your hands, then it's going to ruin the photo. So the better the stabilization can be on device, the more likely you are to get a good photo. And check this out, T-Star coatings have been used on a lot of phones previous to this one, but this particular configuration here is said to be 50% less reflective than the previous Vivo phone, and that was already one of the best camera smartphones that I've ever tested. And you might be thinking, well, less reflective, what's that got to do with anything? Well, think of it like this. Think of the light pouring through the sensor like a stream of water. If any of the little drops of water stay on the lenses and doesn't flow all the way through, those things can ruin the photo. That was a crap metaphor, I apologize. Anyway, it's one thing for me to tell you how good the cameras are, but it's much better for you to see it for yourself. So check this out. Now, right now there are 3 cameras on screen. You don't know which one's the Vivo, but I'm gonna give you 10 seconds to guess, and then I'm gonna reveal which one's which, and hopefully this will help to cast aside any brand biases that you might have and just pick the one that you feel looks the best. And then you will truly know how good this Vivo X100 Pro really is. So check these out, let me know in the comments if the results are what you expected. guys for watching this one. I will be doing a proper camera comparison with this phone, so make sure you're subscribed with notifications on for when that goes live. If you got any value out of this video at all, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. And if you just subscribed, you're now one of the finest subscribers known to man. See you in the next one. Don't be late.